Back with spoilers! Says the girl who doesn't play any video games. Except for Mario Kart when the girlfriend brings it. Yes, we're gonna talk about spoilers, just in case you didn't know, so I hope you're ready for that. Let's get started. I can't believe Peggy finally got that star-spangled dick. That was such a bad wink. Why am I so bad at the wink? That was the opening I really wanted to use, but I just didn't want to ruin it for anybody who might have accidentally clicked on the video. So anyways, for real now. I hope you did watch the non-spoiler video first because I am going to be explaining some of that stuff more in this one. I enjoyed this movie a lot, but again, I want to start off with the bad stuff so that we can get it done and can end on a more upbeat note. Also, I know you all love criticism. Don't try to lie to me. So here are some of the things that I was disappointed by. There's a lot of stuff that I felt like had been alluded to in Infinity War that wasn't brought up at all here. Probably because like the Thanos that we saw in Infinity War dies in the first 10 minutes, which was unexpected to be fair, and that was pretty cool, but like Thanos overall just got majorly downplayed, which was a real shame because he was a great villain in Infinity War. I had sort of thought that we were going to learn about whether or not he was lying about the prosperity of Gamora's home planet and even how his own planet of Titan got so messed up.
What the hell happened to this planet? 8 degrees off its axis. Gravitational pull is all over the place.
I had kind of thought we were gonna learn that that he had come back to punish Titan for not accepting his idea. But no, none of that was relevant, and now that he's gone for good, we'll probably never get an answer to those things, unfortunately. Which is disappointing. Thor's entire storyline. There was obviously the fat stuff, which was just really awful, but it just also really went against everything that the Thor movies have always been about, which is this big, great responsibility of being a king and a leader to a group of people, and specifically being worthy of having people depend on you, and the way in which that was undermined in this movie was just so boring and so weird. It didn't make sense to me that Thor, in the midst of such a defeat, would retreat to be by himself. I think it would have been much more fitting for him to become a really overprotective, active ruler of New Asgard, like an unhealthily active ruler. And if they'd done that, him handing the reins to Valkyrie would have made a lot more sense. And don't get me wrong, that was a scene I actually really liked, but with this storyline, it was still Thor handing off responsibility to somebody else so that he could just f off to space for a while, I guess. They really missed a huge opportunity to have Valkyrie kind of come in and tell Thor to get his shit together. That exact thing happens in Thor Ragnarok. It's the same situation. It's the exact same situation. But Thor is the one to convince Valkyrie, stop running away from your problems, stop being day drunk all the time. And that somehow doesn't happen in this movie. And it's so, oh my God. Anyways, God, Nebula's storyline. I feel like where the film dragged the most was where we had to watch Nebula get the crap kicked out of her, not just by Thanos, but also by herself, which just seemed so needlessly sadistic in this movie that otherwise was really rather fun. And Nebula, even in this movie, just went through so much. I hated that. I hated it so much. And I really hate that she didn't get to kill Thanos, especially because all of those scenes where Nebula is getting beat up in space would have been so much more worth it, or even made sense, if she had been the one to kill Thanos. I don't think I would have minded if she'd even died while doing it either, because killing Thanos has been such a big thing for her in these movies, and she was robbed of both opportunities to have that closure with Thanos by men who did not deserve the honor of killing Thanos. Can I also just say how fucking ridiculous it is that Nebula gets got because her default settings are apparently to update to the fucking cloud? What? The female characters in this movie just got so screwed. Look, I understand why Nat sacrifices herself, but it just would have been so much more interesting for Hawkeye to do it, given the impact it would have had on Nat, and because of what we see Hawkeye doing at the beginning especially, if we want to look at it from a purely character development standpoint, his death would have furthered her development way more than her death furthered his. Her death seemed to almost have no impact on how he acted after that. He was just sad. And it also didn't make any sense because of the arc that was set up for Nat in the first place. Like, we get to see her like really taking care of the planet, and she doesn't even get to see the end of that. And I hated it. I hated it. Ugh, she deserved better. And I think if Hawkeye had died, it would have meant a bit more because his family would have come back and Nat would have had to deal with that. And it just... The women meant nothing in this movie. And that big moment where all the women lined up was very, very cool. And I know that it was a reference to the A-Team or whatever, but like, it just felt so cheap to me because it's so clear that the Russos and Marcus and McFeely have so little interest in their female characters, and that female characters are nothing but expendable to them. The Guardians films feel kind of different now because of Endgame. And I will admit that my feeling that way is probably influenced by the fact that this movie is just so like final and left such a crater of an impact on me emotionally right after I finished watching it that it's probably going to wear off some with time. I recognize that, especially as they move into the next chapter. I'm sure that I will feel a little bit different by the time Spider-Man Study Abroad comes around. I know it's not called Study Abroad, I just like calling it Study Abroad. It's faster than Far From Home. Leave me alone. And with James Gunn back in the fold, I do have faith that he can give us something really good for Guardians 3. So we'll just see. Okay, let's lower my blood pressure now and talk about the good stuff. I don't think you're at all wrong to be confused and annoyed by the time travel stuff. It is really confusing. My friend Taylor sent me a 2-minute rant.
There are multiple theories of time travel. The problem with this movie is that they incorporate both of them and also a bunch of other theories of time travel, and all of them contradict each other. They present multiple theories of like, oh, this is not gonna work, and then they completely undermine all of them, so they wouldn't have had to go back in time in the first place, so it should have erased the whole timeline. The timeline is eating itself. The time travel physics of this movie don't make any sense at all.
And I am personally still very confused about how Peter got mulched and then came back to high school 5 years later, and nobody else has graduated. Like, Ned is still there. So maybe Ned got mulched too. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, to be fair. It's whatever, Tony. I get why you did it, but it's also a little selfish to all the other people. Couldn't you have just time traveled your daughter back to the future? Wow, that was a joke that was not scripted. All that being said, it's an incredibly indulgent movie. I think it is really just better to acknowledge that this is a victory lap. And they do not care about making something airtight. They cared about making something that was going to reward you for sticking with them for so long. And I can honestly live with that. That's fine by me. As upset as I am that the Gamora we know didn't come back, I do think that this very sci-fi thing of having a younger or memory-wiped version of a character come back to interact with people who knew another version of that character is really interesting, and I'm curious to see what happens with that. Carol's gay hair! It was so gay! It was so good! Ah! I saw that hair and I was like, that is a gay haircut! So good! Okay, we're fine now. Okay. I loved the 1970s trip to S.H.I.E.L.D. Tony is my favorite character, and I really enjoyed him getting to talk to his dad. And we have James Darcy back playing Edwin Jarvis. He played the same character in Agent Carter, which was a series I really enjoyed, and that Marcus and McFeely were the showrunners for. And I loved that nod. It was the first time one of the shows was really mentioned in the MCU, and I appreciated that. I had really been hoping Coulson would be brought back, but no dice. But in honor of Phil Coulson, let's talk about our thirst for Steve Rogers. He's a very good-looking man, I'm not denying that. I've never really had a crush on him or anything, which is astounding. However, I have never wanted to f Captain America more than when he picked up the hammer. That was a good scene. It was so good. That was worth 21 movies. That is the scene that I will be watching on repeat when this movie comes out on Blu-ray. It was so good. I can't believe that Peggy finally got to take America's ass home with her. You know what, actually, let's talk about the ass jokes for a second. The ass jokes were so funny. Like I said earlier about this film being very indulgent, the ass jokes were something I would definitely include in that. They were just so ridiculous, but so great. Moving on to the more serious thing, I actually watched a full fat video last week, and he theorized that they might send Cap back to the 1940s, and I was just so delighted because I could see that that's where they were going with it. It was so touching, and I loved it. I do think that they could have leaned into it a little bit more in this movie. My ideal version of that scene would have been him showing up at whatever dance hall she said that she was gonna be at in First Avengers. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, but it was a really bold choice to end with the shot that they did, and that was impressive. I thought the funeral for Tony was very sweet, even though I wish he hadn't died, and I understand why he did, but I still wish that it had been someone else. I didn't really feel like it was the right conclusion for him. Tony's unhealthy work habits in the Iron Man films were always attributed to his fear of and inability to foster intimacy with other human beings. But he overcame that a really long time ago. So the final line that Pepper gives him of saying, "You get to rest now," didn't really jive with me. Especially because he's got a kid. Oh man, that cheeseburgers line did make me tear up. I was really holding it in quite a bit during Tony's funeral, and I wish that Rhodey had gotten to say a few words though. As nice a touch as it was to have that kid from Iron Man 3 at the funeral as well, I just want to say that I hate that kid. He's so annoying in that movie. He's in Tennessee. He would have a southern accent. Let's get back on track though. Oh boy, that part where Okoye, T'Challa, and Shuri emerged from the portal like bathed in light was so cool. I loved it. I loved it so much. I feel so bad for Peter Parker because there's that moment where he's hiding on the ground like clutching the Infinity Gauntlet, and Carol's just like looking cool as hell, and she just does that, "Hey Peter Parker." And that poor boy is going to have the biggest crush on her. He nearly melted under the heat of that smile. So good. Yes. The whole battle is just really fun. It's murky and there's a lot going on, but when you get to be up in it, it's really cool. The rubble of Avengers HQ was a very cool action set piece that I loved. So good. Scott was the unproblematic pure fave of this movie. He was so good in it. It made me want to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp, which, I mean, I thought was kind of forgettable. I saw it in theaters last summer and I was like, sure, yeah, whatever. I want to watch it again now. And I enjoyed that they kept that kind of subtle dynamic of him being really obviously obsessed with wanting to be in with Steve and be Steve's friend, and Steve kind of being like, "That's cool, buddy. You stay over there. I'm dealing with stuff right now." It was a fun dynamic. His reunion with Cassie did make me cry. It was the first thing that made me cry. Cassie seemed a bit old, but that's whatever. There's really quite a lot of things I'm willing to let go of because the movie was so enjoyable and gave me so many fun things as a fan. Ultimately, I would say that even though I think this movie was really packed and not a fantastic standalone movie in the way the other MCU films generally are, I can't really say that I care that much. And I think it's okay to let go of some of the things, like the time travel plot holes, just so you can fully enjoy seeing all of these things that the MCU has built over 22 films just collide with each other at full speed. I did have a great time. I think I'm going to enjoy it even more now that I know what to expect. The female characters thing is like a big problem. Like, I'm not gonna lie about that. It does really bother me. It's been a long journey to get to Endgame, and I hope they're actually going to walk the walk in regards to their uber diverse next slate of films. We'll see. I am excited to see Endgame again. I probably won't for another week or so. I hope you all enjoyed this. Since this is a spoiler video, feel free to leave comments below about what you thought about the film. And in case you didn't watch the other video, like I told you to, we were on a podcast, link in the description. We're thinking about thanking patrons as a perk on Patreon. Let me know what you think about that. And Paige will be returning with a new series that you're going to enjoy, I promise. If you're not already subscribed, please do so down below, especially if you'd like to see more videos like this one. And that is all. The Princess will see you real soon.